Hello everyone and welcome yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, and today, this Valentine's Day, we'll be doing more with the things that I love. Like, top 3 things that I love is to learn. I love my wife, I love my puppy dog, and I love to learn by extension. I love to teach. And today I'm gonna try to learn something new. I'm going to try to learn SwiftUI. I'm going to try to learn how to build a VisionOS app for the Apple Vision Pro. It's been all the rage right now, and that's why I will be killing off the music, because we may need to go through a course together. We'll be going through some content together and seeing how well that works out for us. We'll be trying to recreate this SvelteKit gaming app where we have like some game information, it has like some nice transitions, and trying to recreate this in VisionOS. There's been another start to this stream because we're dropping quite a lot of frames. There was a lot of lag. Thank you very much for the people in the chat letting me know that it wasn't quite workable. Hopefully now it works. Sadly, I do have the iPhone 15 emulator running here, the simulator running here in iPhone 15 before we had the VisionOS simulator running. And I think that was the problem. That was why the stream was so laggy. And in order to get things done, we'll have to develop in iOS, which is fine. The whole point of this is that we'll be implementing a course that already exists about SwiftUI development in multiple targets. This course doesn't have VisionOS as a supported target, but the point with SwiftUI is that you can do a lot of stuff. You can have a little care, and then you can have an extra deploy target. You can develop for iOS. It's a bit like responsive web design that we're very familiar with in this channel. You can build for one target and then it mostly works for another one. And for a lot of apps, that's really what you want. I do not like repeating myself. That's why the intro may be a bit more haphazard than the one we just had. Apologies for this. So I was trying to find some content on how to get into SwiftUI development, how to get into VisionOS development. I have watched a lot of the WWDC talks. They talked about a lot about the spatial design, about immersive experiences and that sort of thing. They have quite a lot of projects that showcase a few of the features. I like the one where you do like a heart shape and then you you dismiss angry clowns that get rendered in front of you. But the one that I would like to recreate is this app, which is a flashcards type of learning app. You have the question in front of you. In this case, you don't have a question, you have an invention. And then on the other side of the card, it's the person who invented it. And I can see this transitioning very well to a dedicated flashcards app, maybe about JavaScript or Swift or any language that you want, TypeScript, SvelteKit, a framework like Next.js, that sort of thing. And would look amazing in the Vision Pro, would look amazing being immersed in this and being able to see the card in front of you. You think a bit better and then you flip it over, maybe by tapping, maybe by looking, I don't know, looking and like kind of tapping, I think is the gesture that they want there. But having an app like that, maybe you don't want to type a lot of things with the visual keyboard of the Vision Pro. So it would work great by having multiple deploy targets for the same app. So maybe you're on your Mac, and that's where you actually prepare the questions and answers, the flashcards that you want to have. And then you revisit them in VisionOS. Maybe you can have something where there is a 3D model of a teacher or an interviewer that is asking you the questions with text to speech. I don't know, the sky's the limit. That's the goal of what I would love to create for VisionOS. But in order to get there, we have a lot of hoops to get going with. I ranted a little bit before, maybe for the first time ever in the stream, because I love keeping things positive. I don't want to dunk on anyone, especially teachers. But as a beginner with Swift and iOS development, I was quite frustrated and lost and overwhelmed trying to find good course content. There were quite a lot of very bad quality, non-thought out courses that have managed to get a lot of SEO because they put a lot of effort on like the cover letter, the overview of the course, and a nice thumbnail. And then when you actually start the course, it's not good. But I think that this one is going to be good. This one is starting pretty much with CRUD, which we've done a lot of with our web dev streams: create, read, update, delete. It doesn't literally say CRUD here, which may be more familiar to people in web dev or who do backend. CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. But essentially, saving a movie that we'll be doing is creating, fetching and display movies, that's reading, deleting is delete, and updating is updating. So that's self-explanatory. Then it goes into one-to-many relationships. A movie or a game, in our case, does have many reviews. Many-to-many relationships. Many games have many game designers. A game designer can have worked on many games, and game designers games can have many game designers. Then it's doing search and filtering and that sort of thing, and then it even talks about testing. So that's music to my ears. It seems like it aligns with my learning style and my teaching style, as a matter of fact. And most of all, it feels like this is made by a real person that wants to teach, and not just someone that wants to get into the market earlier and grab all the SEO and be like the top rated course, and just never updates it after 4 years. Anyway, Mohammed's course is not affiliated with me whatsoever. I just like how it looks, so we'll try to go through it together. So I do think there is no lag here. Great. We've talked about what we'll be building today, trying to translate this into a SwiftUI app, and maybe in the future build a flashcards type of VisionOS app. We will be simulating in the iPhone simulator, because sadly it seems my stream cannot handle running the Vision Pro simulator, which is cool but understandable. I am on a Mac after all, and 3D is a bit too much for it, I guess. It is a Mac Studio Ultra, but hey, them's the bricks. That's also the reason that I'll never be doing an Unreal Engine live stream, I imagine. And what else do I want to go for? Maybe a bit more qualifications on me that I talked about last stream that is going to be unlisted soon. I am a web engineer, full stack engineer. I've been doing this for about 2 decades with great success. Even last month, I had a great sprint, a 1-week sprint with another principal software engineer, where we created an app. We fulfilled the vision of the client in just 1 week. The client, super happy, is now pitching with that MVP, and we'll be getting lots and lots of fundraising money based on it. So I know what I'm doing when it comes to web dev. What I don't know what I'm doing with is with actually native app development. I've done a bit of React Native. I've done a bit of Flutter, which is you write in a different language, which you may be more familiar with. You may be more familiar with React, for example, a framework like that, which then behind the scenes breezes the React JSX type of stuff that you're doing to the native stuff that an iOS app or VisionOS app will be understanding. But in this case, I want an actually native app. I do appreciate the magic of frameworks, but I do want to understand what's happening behind the scenes. That helps me know how to optimize. That helps me understand why the creators have done a few things, why they formulated those opinions. And inevitably, at some point, another framework creator will not have thought of your specific use case, and you'll need to get into the weeds. So if you understand the problem, if you understand the fundamentals, then it's easier to get out of that hole, that problem, and solve the problem in the end. So that's why I want to see how to do an actual native app with SwiftUI. And with Vision Pro looking so awesome, this seems the perfect time to do it. And I think it's also going to be a lot of fun, like kind of an experienced web dev that doesn't have a Vision Pro create a decent VisionOS app. I think that's possible. If you were to ask me, build this for VisionOS, I would tell you, I'll make a web app like always and have it run great on Safari. Like always, it's hard, but it's doable and I can do it. And then you sidestep the App Store and the Apple process there, which can be quite finicky, and it will be running well in Safari, in VisionOS. If it's good enough for Google and YouTube, it's good enough for me. But that said, there is a developer who has created, Juno, I believe the name is, a paid app that is an actually native app for YouTube. And it seems to be quite good. It does have some things like bigger target areas, top targets, that sort of thing that makes it more usable, the UX a bit friendlier. So optimizing for that without resorting to like mobile first development, having an actual native app, I think is a good idea. Maybe it will help me learn more of how to make my web apps a bit more accessible for VisionOS. And of course, there's the other matter that people who have bought the VisionOS are looking for great apps like exclusive to VisionOS, or apps that at least are native to VisionOS to justify their purchase, I suppose. All right, that may be enough preamble. It does look like the stream is working fine this time. I won't rant more about the existing courses and tutorials. And we've done a bit of an overview of Mohammed's course. This one, we've talked about, I guess, about state management again, or is that the next part? It is the next part. So yeah, it feels like some thing that I could create as well, teaching people about CRUD. Usable web app always has people, the users, creating stuff, reading stuff, updating them, deleting them. So it feels like fundamental thing to learn. The foundation of how to get into any language could be learn how to do CRUD operations. So that's why I chose this one. And indeed, we won't be going through the state management stuff because I'll just be talking about them right now. Because I find it quite fun that in web dev, it's always a bit of an issue, I guess, maybe controversial issue, how to manage state. Like, should we have like two-way binding where a variable gets passed around and then gets updated automatically by other components? Should we have like an overcomplicated library, like Redux that takes events and dispatches events, and then only one place is allowed to mutate data? Should we have things in the context, which they call environment here, because we hate drop drilling? We don't want to pass around state. We don't want to pass around state or props from like the top of the app all the way down, like 10 components deep. Some people think that's a bit of a hassle. I don't know. But it does seem like in SwiftUI as well, people have experienced the same problems, like always. This makes me more confident that we'll be able to get somewhere, because at some point, especially for those, like, I guess, Python-like, JavaScript-like libraries, languages, the idea, like the way we work about building this app is going to be very similar. A lot of skills are going to transfer over. Like if you're familiar with like PHP, yeah, you can do JavaScript and TypeScript for sure. We can do Swift for sure. We just need to figure out the best patterns, but they're going to be like quite similar. If this was like Haskell or Closure or something, even though I've seen those before and worked a little bit on those and other like Lisp style languages, that every time I would look at the screen, like my brain would fry. So I'd be less confident of that. All right, so I've made my little overview of state and how it makes me feel kind of confident that we'll be doing similar stuff. Let's get into the weeds and try to get some games here.
Do that. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to create.
So we have this running in 2x speed. Let me know if that's annoying for you.
Some sort of a model to represent a movie.
Unfortunately, I do find that all these courses do not have like written content, like we did the Next.js Learns stream, the SvelteKit Learn stream, where I could scan through quickly and then try to implement. So I don't know if I will be like scrubbing around.
So I'm just going to go ahead and create a model folder in my application and going to add a new zip file.
So here, Mohammed wants us to create a models folder where we'll have, I guess, our types, like our resource types, something like that. And like, how do I create folders? Are already here? So the answer could be that I don't know. Surely you can create a folder, Tony. I'm gonna cheat and create it in a different way. With the Finder. Will that appear here? Did it create it anywhere? Maybe it didn't. Is it new group? Oh, new group is directory. New group means directory. But I couldn't find it because I created with it didn't allow the renaming because I created it on Finder and then it didn't update here. So that's quite interesting. We've talked about how it was frying, like this thing has been frying my stream, and we're dropping frames. And I've been spoiled with web dev, with like the hot reloading and everything just works. The folders are in sync, the directories. But hey, so let's create a new Swift file, I guess. And we'll create it. We'll call it game. Video game, just game.
And now we will define our model.
And I suspect we're gonna be writing something that's like a TypeScript type for
the first thing I'm gonna do is import Swift data. So make sure that you are using XCode 15 and above, or else you're not gonna get access to Swift data.
Another thing that led me to this app was the use of Swift data, which seems like the modern way to work with data, and especially local, like user on device data that also syncs with iCloud. That's something that I wish we could do easily with web apps, but mostly for security reasons, that's very, very hard to do, like on device, local storage, and syncing across the user's device, just impossible. That's a bit of the Apple magic that you can get with a native app, where you do something like you have the native Apple apps like calendar, notes, maybe notes is a better example. You write a note on your Mac, then it's available on your phone, it's available on your iPad, it's available anywhere you have connected to your iCloud account, without needing to connect to have like Supabase, without needing to have Firebase, without needing to have your own database somewhere. The app doesn't need to make a network request anywhere else other than the Apple stuff, and Apple is quite good at downloading the data. So if you're on the tube or somewhere without signal, you will be able to access them, and then it will automatically sync. So not only the cross-device stuff works quite well, it seems that just by using Swift data, you are able to do all of those offline first operations that are possible with web dev, but very, very hard. So I'm excited to work with this.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and create a class called movie. It doesn't really have to be final, but I like to have a very narrow scope of my class, meaning this is the final definition. So I'm just going to put it final.
Final class, like classes, like in JavaScript, like we're not doing React, so very rarely use them. But I can only suspect that it means that you cannot extend this class. Maybe you'd want to extend this class. Final, like cannot be extended. I guess that's what it means.
And we need to decorate it with the model. Now, what exactly is this model? Well, this is the new macro that has been added into our XCode 15 and iOS 17 that will allow you to talk to the database, and it will also allow you to create behind the scene a lot of functions and functionality that will allow you to talk to core data, or basically SQLite database. So behind the scenes is kind of like talking to core.
So I heard SQLite database. I guess that's what iOS and VisionOS and all of those use behind the scenes for us. You don't need to set up anything.
Data, and Swift data is just a wrapper on top of core data. Okay.
But I wonder, like, if I were to want to sync this up with Supabase, is it easy? Maybe that's something to figure out in the future.
So we're creating a movie class, and the model is indicating that this is the entity that we want to persist. The next thing we want to do is to create some attributes, meaning some properties that we want to save in the database. So I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of different properties, like the title and the year of the movie, and that's it.
All right. And bars here. So this is not a date, not TypeScript. Int, sure. Model initializer requires initializer be provided for game. What does that mean?
Now, since we're using a movie as a class and not a struct, because on struct you can't really decorate model, we will have to go ahead and create the initializer. So this is
right. So we initialize like this. Is there like a macro to do this? Oh, awesome. Well done, VS Code. You may not have auto formatting, but you have this.
Our initializer takes in the title, takes in the year, and it initializes our model. Now, in certain cases, which we don't really want, but in certain cases, you do want your certain properties or attributes to be unique. So in those cases, you have an attribute that you can use. All right. So there are many different type of models that are available. So let's go ahead and see what model sets are available for us. It's not really attribute, sorry. Let's go ahead. Now, we don't really want our title to be unique, but if you do want certain things to be unique, like a username could be a good idea, then we can put the unique and we can say unique. Like we can put this unique attribute to it. And if you check it out over here, this is also another macro. So all of these features are added to the Swift language macros, which means that it's going to inject some code behind the scene and it's going to add some functionality to our classes. All right. Or to anything basically. But right now, we don't really want the title to be unique. So although you can do that, and you're perfectly fine if you want to do it, I don't really want to do that, so I'm just going to remove it.
So let's see if we can add like the Open Critic ID. Is it an integer? Don't quite remember. I think it was. And we can do attribute unique and not autocomplete anymore. Like you had one chance not complete, you need to create everything, or else you're out. I can duplicate a line, that's something. But no multi-line select. Well, that's what I want to do. How do I multi-line select? I don't know.
Okay. So we have our movie class. It consists of the title, it consists of the year, and we have the initializer also. The next thing that we want to do is we want to allow the user to save a particular movie. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need is we need to create a screen that will allow us to save or add a new movie. So let me go ahead and create a screens folder, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new SwiftUI view. I'll call it Add Movie Screen.
All right. So instead of view, Mohammed calls them screens. Is that the pattern? I'm just going to have to trust them. So let's create another group. Screens. Did you check out the bug where the first letter is like on light mode and not on dark mode? It happened before with models. It's happened again.
Okay, you don't have to call it screen, but I like to organize my views with screen.
So now we want new file. Where's new file? There it is. SwiftUI view. I guess it's just the view prefix. Why not? And let's call it create game. Add game. It's the CRUD operations, but I guess add game. Should we have like a tag? Yeah. Keep it simple.
screens, screen representing an entire screen, and the view will be just a small part of the screen. So in the Add Movie screen, we will allow the user to, well, add a movie. So the first thing I'm going to do is, since we are asking for the title and the year, I'm going to go ahead and add two different properties over here, the title and the year.
Did he copy paste them from somewhere? Also, Mohammed, you don't list your pronouns. I'm sorry if they're not he, him. So this one does default to something. In the year, like sometimes it's not there. I want to say, nah, don't like that. Should always have a year for a video game. They didn't drag and drop this, right? No. That'd be crazy. Like, I want this model. It'd be fun to have like this sort of method. All right, so state, private variable, sure. And title, string. Is it fine if I don't default this? Oh, interesting. Does it break from them? Interesting. So if you default them, then it's able to do the preview. Because I guess you need to start these with something. Interesting. And we said, but we also want critic ID. Sure.
Both of these properties will allow us to enter something, meaning we can add like a text field or a form, and we can construct our view. So now you can see that we have a text.
Oh, form. I love forms. String protocol. Sounds so official. So in order to pass this around as a bindable variable, we need the dollar symbol, as far as I understand.
Text field for the title, and we have a text field where user can enter.
Ooh, value in format. Great. Something's appearing. Daytime, great. Can I say daytime, but only here? Find out, I guess. Let's Google it. Oh, I have a picker. Oh no. We're getting into a rabbit hole here. It is indeed. Looks like this. Great. Nice. So that's a date picker. Can I search for any picker? Doesn't matter, just make it a number input for now and move on with our lives. Learn how to do it better eventually.
The year. Great. Apart from that, we also want the user to obviously save this information and validate the information. In order to validate.
Right. And also we want an OpenCritic ID. Hey, this does update on save on type. That's cool. So this one should be something that queries OpenCritic as well to find the ID, ideally.
Validate. I'm going to go ahead and add a new extensions, and you'll see in a moment why I'm providing an extension. I'm going to go ahead and add a new file, and this extension will be based on string. So I'm just going to say string extensions. And the reason is that I want to add one property to my string type, which is empty or white space. So user will not be.
So now we're doing something that's bad. That's like early JavaScript pattern where you like pollute the global and you override methods. Like with array, it was very popular to implement methods that didn't exist, but that's bad because you could break other people's code. I guess in this case, maybe you wouldn't. I'm not sure. So for example, if you implement your own array smooth, then JavaScript, who doesn't want to break websites, would not rely on, would not introduce a .smooth variable in like next version of ECMAScript because they're like, oh, because of modules that have their own custom implementation of array, like they would override the native JavaScript one that we want to create. But I'm not sure. Like with Swift, obviously, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's a concern. Like to me, it feels like I would create like this method and then pass the string into it. It feels like a cleaner way to do this. But hey.
Will not be allowed to add even white space to the application. Now I can go back to my add screen or add movie screen, and I can go ahead and simply add over here. Let's check it out right there. There we go. So now we're checking if the form is valid or not. And if the form is valid, then the button will be enabled. Now, right now, again, we don't really have a button. I can go ahead and add a navigation stack. So I've added the navigation stack in my preview, and you can also see that the preview looks kind of weird. So this is also using the new features of macros in SwiftUI. So again, the feature is available in iOS 17 and for XCode 15. So make sure you download XCode.
So they're talking about the preview feature, I guess. I thought that came a bit earlier than iOS 17, or
have this navigation stack,
that they made it
what we
weird.
want to do is to add a toolbar. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and add a toolbar. And the toolbar will have two buttons. One will be the button to simply close. So I'll just go ahead and add a button which will close. And the other button, the second button that we will have, is obviously for the save, like when we are saving a particular movie.
So if we don't, if this is not rendered inside the navigation stack, then it cannot have a toolbar. Maybe that's the case. So let's say toolbar. You don't call it. Say this. And then no content, I suppose. And then you specify what's inside. Inside the button, it just says close. But this also needs curlies for some reason. All right, so now it's happy, but we don't see it, I guess, because this is not wrapped inside a view. Zoom my face a bit more. Apple's center state going a bit wonky. But yeah, we said that this is called navigation stack. So the moment we enter this view, yeah, navigation stack, then the toolbar appears nicely. Great. And I guess they want us to dismiss there.
This will be on the building part.
But looks
great.
Native.
The save button will be disabled if the form is invalid. So I can simply check over here. If the form is invalid, then the save button is disabled. The dismiss part we can actually get from the environment. So let's go ahead and quickly grab that. The dismiss.
So cool. You can pass a method here, apparently. And we can declare a method with. I'll probably create this later or not. So I guess if it's the last line, it will be returned automatically. That's a thing. The Ruby-like. So you can see the save button change in. So I'm thinking instead of doing that string access and pollution thing, but yeah, I would want like this utility. I would want this utility. But wait a minute, like the users should be able to type things, and then we clean up the input for them, right? Anyway, we'll think about it later. Trimming characters. It feels like it's a bit much to ask from the user. They just see the thing being like the save button being disabled, and then they need to figure out that, oh, it's because I have like white space and stuff. So maybe we just don't do this. Maybe we just don't do this. We'll think about this. Maybe what we need to do is, do we have a title? Can we flip this? No? Does it have like an isEmpty? All right. It's not empty and year. Let's be unwrapped. So it's not optional. But then we'd need to type it as something. See, that's why it's optional. Is that defined? Is it null? Doesn't look like a real thing. All right, that's correct. And if we add like something here, should be happy. Cool. All right, so we passed the wrong thing to this. We want critical ID. And we want the same for the open critic ID. And it should be like an autocomplete for sure. Cool.
White space. So user will not be allowed to add even white space to the application. Now I can go back to my add screen or add movie screen, and I can go ahead and simply add over here. Let's check it out right there. There we go. So now we're checking if the form is valid or not.
We did this.
But now the question is, how do we save and disable if the form is invalid? So I can simply check over here. If the form is invalid, then the save button is disabled. The dismiss part we can actually get from the environment. So let's go ahead and quickly grab that. The dismiss is going to dismiss this particular modal, and we are going to show modal.
Dismiss from the environment. Sure. Any autocomplete from that? No.
We can actually get from the environment. So let's go ahead and quickly grab that. The dismiss is going to.
So from the context, there is a magic dismiss here. And we need to escape the dot, I suppose. And then we need to declare how it's called locally, I suppose.
Is going to dismiss this particular modal, and we are going to show modal eventually. But now the question is, how do we save the information? In order to save the information, we have to take help from the model context. If you remember in core data, we were using manage object context, but when we're using Swift data, we'll be using the model context. The model context is kind of like the brain. It's going to keep track of all the changes you're making to your models, which include the movie model. For the preview, I'm just going to go ahead and inject the environment over here, but not using the environment part. If you want to inject something, we'll say model container. So first make sure that you're adding the Swift data, so you have access to the model container.
Let's import Swift data, have access to the model container, whatever that is.
Model container. In the model container, there are many different options. I'm just going to go ahead and pass in the different models on which we'll be performing actions.
Right, so in the model container, you pass in every model that exists in this space. And I see that it's an array because you can have many.
So the only model that we're passing and the only model we have is a movie model. So we're passing the model container, and in the array we're passing movie model so that your SwiftUI code will know how to persist the movie model.
My doggy is here,
Once we
waking
inject
up,
the model
ready
container,
for a walk.
we can get access to the model context using the environment variable. So let's go ahead and use environment variable and get access to the model context. As I mentioned earlier, model context is
All right, so this will magically add the model context here, I suppose. Will we call it model context again? Just context. There's it. Tamam. What do you want that? Right, we will need to be doing a little break. I said before, it's Valentine's Day. Love my wife, love my puppy dog, this girl here. And I love to learn. This is why we're doing it. But we'll be back with more CRUD stuff. Because this lady wants to play a little bit. And then she'll be hopefully a bit more relaxed. Will we manage to finish this video?
kind of like the brains. This is the thing that's going to keep track of all the different changes that you're doing to your application, to your models. And you can save and delete and even perform fetch operations using the model context. Inside the save, now it's time to create a new movie. We can create a new movie by simply saying movie, passing in the title and the year. Title will become.
So what happens when you click this button? Then we have a new movie. Game, actually. No new keyword.
Will be coming from the title, and the year will be coming from the year. Here you can see over here is optional.
Oof. I guess in the model we say that it always exists, but it doesn't know that it this check means that it will never be undefined, interestingly enough. So yeah, quick break and we'll be right back. And we're back. My lovely puppy dogs did go after my piano cover, which is unfortunate. Shouldn't have had, like, open door, open everything. Should have just come here for hugs, but hey, them's the breaks. That sometimes happens. Right, so I think our problem is that the model, we've defined all of these things to be always not nil, and this one doesn't really get that they are in fact not nil because we're doing the check. If I do the check again, will it understand? Yeah. All right. So, oh, no, it doesn't. So if I do like this specifically, will it know? Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Or maybe not. Force unwrap using this. Doesn't like it.
Optional. Now, you can, if you want, you can unwrap it like this. Or if you want, you can go ahead and unwrap it a little bit more safely. And if the year is null, then we will not do anything. Once we have created the movie object.
All right, so they make it guard. Yeah, it doesn't understand. So I guess this reassigns it only if these values are truthy. But we're doing this check here, so not sure about that. Hey, gotta do what we gotta do.
Object, we can add it to the context. Context.insert and the movie. Now at this point, the movie will eventually be saved in the database. But I definitely like to call the save function explicitly. This means that I would like to do context.save. Save means that whatever is in the context, and there might be some other things in the context, but in our case, there is not, will be saved to the database. Everything will be persisted to the database instantly. The save function on the context is a throwable function that can throw, so we have to make sure that we wrap it with try and catch. Once we receive an error, we can go ahead and display the error. And this is all the code that we need to persist the movie to the database. If you're coming from the background of core data, you may have noticed we never created any data model file entities, all that stuff in the designer. We never really created the core data stack, persistent container, view context, manage object context, all of that stuff. We never did any of that stuff. So this is a much simpler way of using some API that can persist to the SQLite database using Swift data. Now we still need to test this out. Now one of the ways we can test it out is by creating our screen that is allowing us to present the add movie screen.
We actually try this, and then cats reminds me of panic in Go. All right, so we're kind of forcing this to save after we've inserted the game. Kind of makes sense.
Display the error. And this is all the code that we need to persist the movie to the database. If you're coming from the background of core data, you may have noticed we never created any data model file entities, all that stuff in the designer. We never really created the core data stack, persistent container, view context, manage object context, all of that stuff. We never did any of that stuff. So this is a much simpler way of using some API that can persist to the SQLite database using Swift data. Now we still need to test this out. Now one of the ways we can test it out is by creating our screen that is allowing us to present the Add Movie screen. If we go back to our models app, we will need to make sure that we are injecting the container, the model container, to the window group. So I can go ahead and say model container, and I can pass in the entities that we'll be dealing with, which is only one entity called movie.self. That's a type. And we need to do that because when we are running the application, it's going to be using this particular code. But when we are actually using our previews, then it will be using whatever is inside the preview. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure, for now, that instead of the content view, we are displaying the Add Movie view or Add Movie screen. We also need to wrap this in a navigation stack. So we'll simply say navigation stack, and we'll wrap our Add Movie screen in there. Eventually, we'll change this Add Movie screen and we will display movie list screen, but right now we're just testing it out. So that's perfectly fine.
All right, so we'll be doing the same thing we're doing here, I guess, in the preview. Just want this. But we don't actually need to do the model container because it's magically in the context on a higher level. Right, that makes sense.
Let's go ahead and run our application, but this time we'll run it in a simulator. So once it launches in the simulator, we can insert or enter the information for the title and the year, and we can persist it by pressing the save button. And here we go. Our application is now running in the simulator.
All right, so I am afraid to press this because I'm afraid it will like crash the stream. So let me try it later. But here, like in the specific view, it does look like we're fine.
Now, since we're using the XCode 15 and it's in the early stages, you may see a lot of different kind of warnings in your console. Right now, you can just ignore those warnings. It's also a little bit hard to type in there if you click on the title, and if I press any key from an actual keyboard, it's a little bit hard. So that's why I'm using this on-screen keyboard. You can enable the on-screen keyboard by simply going to the keyboard and unchecking the use the same keyboard language as macOS, and you can toggle software keyboard also. So let's go ahead and type something out over here. The name of a movie. I'm just going to go ahead and type Batman. That's the name of my movie. And then for the year, I'm just going to go ahead and press 2023. You can already see some sort of messages being displayed in your output window. Again, since this is the early version of XCode, you can ignore these messages. Don't worry about that. I can go ahead and save it. Now, even though we have saved it, there's no
Don't worry about warnings
successfully or not, because we haven't really displayed it. So let's go in the next lecture and talk about how we can retrieve and fetch the data from our persistent storage, which is SQLite, and display it on the screen.
All right, create has worked. Let's see about read.
Go ahead and display all the movies. Now, in order to display the movies, we can simply display the movies in our movie list screen, but eventually we would like to move it out to a separate view. If I want a new screen, this will be a SwiftUI displaying our movies. Now let's go ahead and work on displaying our movies. In order to display a movie, I'm just going to go ahead and add a new screen. This will be a SwiftUI view, and we should probably call this movie list screen.
All right, so SwiftUI view, VisionOS template, sure. Let's notice that. So games list view.
Perfect. The responsibility of the movie list screen is to simply list all the movies.
Plural here.
Let's go ahead and refresh our XCode previews. Right now, it's not really going to display much because we haven't really written anything in there. In order for us to display the movies, the first thing we're going to do is to import Swift data. If we want to use our movie list screen for our previews, then you also need to make sure that you are using the model container and passing in the movie itself so that it will know how to transform these movies, how to fetch those movies, or what these movie entities look like. In our movie list screen, now in order to fetch it,
right on the preview, so we want this again.
We can use the new query. Now, what exactly is this query? You can see query is a brand new property wrapper, and it allows you to, as the name suggests, query from the database for a certain attribute or a certain class that you're looking for, a certain model that you're looking for.
Sweet.
I can simply go ahead and say that I want everything. And that is all the code that you actually need. Currently, in the query, I'm not really providing that I need to format the data or sort the data in a certain way. I'm not really providing anything over here, no predicates, nothing. This means that this is simply going to fetch me all the movies in our database, persistent storage, and put it into a variable called movies. Now, I can go ahead and display all the movies. Now, in order to display the movies, we can simply display the movies in our movie list screen, but eventually we would like to move it out to a separate view. If I want to display movies, I'll simply go ahead and use a list on the movies. Each movie will be handled to me or given to me, and then I can simply go ahead and display the title of the movie. Now, you can see that right now on XCode previews, this doesn't really work. So let's go ahead.
So each item here, we can say movie. So this is games. Games. It's game in. Games implied. Text element. Game title. But then we
go
need
ahead
to
and run the
pass the
application
games to the
in the
preview,
simulator
I
and see if it
suppose.
works or not. But before we do that, we also want to go to the Movies app, that is our starting point of the app, and change the Add Movie Screen to the Movie List Screen, or else we will never reach the Movie List Screen. Now let's go ahead and run the application. And there we go. We are able to display a certain amount of movies. If you're wondering
How?
where does the rest of the movies came from, well, to be really honest, I added a few more movies behind the scene, just to give you an idea.
Oh,
So this is really great. We're able to
cheeky.
display the movies. Now, if I want to add a particular movie, then I should probably go to the movie list screen and give it some sort of a way to add a particular movie. Meaning, maybe I'll add like a toolbar or something that will allow the user to add the movies. So how can I do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a state variable, which will be isAddMoviePresented. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add a very simple toolbar. And this toolbar is going to allow me to click on the option or to tap on the option to add a particular movie. So now if you look on your XCode previews, you will be able to see it once I wrap this with a navigation stack. And you should be able to see Add Movie right there.
All right, so we want the same thing as here. Wrap this in a navigation stack. Hey, it doesn't copy the same as the VS Code either. Oh boy. Auto-indented though, that's good. So a toolbar. It's the same thing. At the end of the list, sure. Oh, wrong level. The end of the list, maybe it said so. Get this out.
When we press Add Movie, we want to show a sheet, like a modal. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the modal over here on the sheet. Great. Now if I press on Add Movie, you can see that it takes me to the Add Movie screen.
Right. So it seems like this will only be shown if this variable is truthy. So that's why we're introducing the state variable here. AddGame will not be doing anything like that. Keep it empty for now. It's never going to be disabled. And the variable visible. Why not? Presented, because that's a special name. That's false. And when you click this, is it true? And then you add a sheet, which for some reason also has a navigation stack. I guess in order to have the sub toolbar. Yeah, I guess it gets added in there. So maybe that's why they called this a screen. Not sure. Oh, and you need to bind it. Fair enough. So we don't have any games, but when we press here, we get the seat. Great. It's the thing we created elsewhere. Awesome. So let's see. This date 2023. That's not quite how it works. And it is an integer. Ugh. Of course, it's not gonna copy paste. 9136. Save. All right, so save doesn't dismiss automatically. But hey, we did it. We added something. Rock. Not spelled correctly, but hey. Was it 2022 already? Yes, so 12/9/19. That's also shouldn't have the comma separator. So saves it, but then you have to manually close it, which is interesting. It is interesting. And let's have a look at the model here. We do say that this is unique. I guess that's the thing that didn't make like 3 Baldur's Gates appears, or 1,000,000 for every time we tap that button. And I guess these get persisted but somewhere in my Mac, because the preview reloaded and yet I still have them. Interesting.
I can go to the Add Movie screen and also give it some sort of a navigation title, like Add Movie, so that we know that we're on the Add Movie screen.
Navigation title, let's see. Couple codes. It looks quite bad.
Now, let's go ahead and run our application again. We can go to the Add Movie, we can close it, we can go to the Add Movie. Let's go ahead and type in the name of a movie. I will simply go ahead and say Iron Man. You can see that I have to type quite slow because I have to use this on-screen keyboard. And then I can go ahead and add some here. If I save it, it may have already been saved, but our model doesn't really go back or go down. We can definitely see that the Iron Man is saved. The only thing for us to do now is to go to the Add Movie screen and making sure that we call dismiss. Great. This means that now when the movie will be saved successfully, the model, the sheet, will be dismissed. Let's go ahead and run it again. I can go and say Add Movie. I can add a certain name of the movie. Let's just call it Stripes. That's one of my favorite movies of Bill Murray. I'm not really sure what the year of the movie is. I'm just going to say 2004. Probably it's much older than that. And there we go. So great. We're able to add a movie and we're able to display the movies. We can also go ahead and edit our query over here if you want to support sorting behavior. Let's go ahead and see how we can do that. For our query, we're currently not really specifying any kind of sort order, but we can if we want to. We can say that we do want to sort our movies. That will be based on the title of the movie. And the order.
Nice.
Will be reversed. You can say forward or you can say reverse, which means in ascending or descending order.
So here, I guess that's the default that you want, and you can update some things for the user to be able to change the sort order, I suppose. So where do they do it? So they call this query thing, and you can say that the sort is game title. We'll actually do game year. And then you can see how you can do like Metacritic score, for example.
Now let's go ahead and run our application again. When we run our application, it shows our movies in reverse order. You can see that. Now let's go ahead and run our application again.
Listen.
For our query, I'm not really sure what the year of the movie had, and But we
So
can
they had this
we can say that we
update
do want to sort
here.
our movies that will be based on the title of the movie. And the order
Slash movie. I wonder what that does. So let's add Prince of Persia, which is like this year. $15,867. That's correct. All right, so it comes first, even though we added last, because we have this reverse order. Also has forward, which should shuffle them around. Yeah, good. And you can see how you can list them by gamer score. And ideally, we would want like the thumbnails there, that sort of thing. So that's all well and good.
You remember dates?
That's not the one we were working on. Did I exit the course? Whoops.
in ascending or descending order. Now let's go ahead and run our application again. When we run our application, it shows our movies in reverse order. You can see that the movie, which is the letter coming later in the alphabet, is on the top, while B, which is coming earlier in the alphabet,
we did this
is
demo.
at the end.
But
If
we
I go
have
ahead
it
and
as
change
year. So let's see. How does this work? How can I add like parentheses? I want the year, right? That 2 months. It's adding 2 for each. Is it like a horizontal stack? That's like fundamentals. How do you concatenate strings? How do you like force integers to be strings? I think you can do like a horizontal stack to show the score at the end or something like that. But that's not exactly what we want. Text. Let's find the text. It's going to be everything. And you can do the font, you can do lots of things. You can do markdown. Ooh. Localize, great. From image, interesting fonts. All right. Swift concatenate string with integer. String interpolation. Interesting. So the parentheses are not part of this. Right. So, but we'd probably do like a horizontal stack to give this like special formatting, etc. And it is a SwiftUI thing. maybe not. So I can't chorus this. Oh, that's fine. Can chorus it like this. How can I make one grow? Is there like a fill? Even here, I'm getting into CSS rabbit holes, styling rabbit holes. H-tag, expand, grow, item. Min width. Spacer. Oh, nailed it. Font weight, bold. This could be like the game score, which will at some point. But yeah, interesting. All right, so not detail view yet. But let's keep
in this order to forward, you'll see that it kind of changes the direction, and the movies are it's in ascending order, meaning Batman, Iron Man, and the alphabets that come in later are at the end. Great. The next step that we want to do is to have the ability to delete a particular movie. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that in the next lecture.
So the next lecture is actually debugging Swift data. I wonder if we can see the local SQL.
Now, whenever we're working with Swift data, we are performing SQL queries because that's what is going on behind the scene, like insert, select, update, delete, and all that stuff. But it would be really nice if we can see those queries in our output window. This will help us debug the issues. And since Swift data actually uses core data behind the scene, we can easily do that. Let's go to our scheme by selecting on this movies icon, because that's the name of our movie or our app, edit scheme. And in the arguments, we can add arguments passed on launch. And since we are using Swift data, which is a layer on top of core data, we can use all the different arguments that were valid in core data also. So we can pass in arguments like com.apple.coredata.sqldebug with a flag of 1 meaning enabled. There are some other flags that you can pass in, but for our case, it will be.
All right, so I guess this will make things like select star from games appear printed.
Useful. Let's go ahead and close it. Great. And let's go ahead and run the application. So after we have made that adjustment, you will see in your output window a lot more information. This is actually great because now we can see all the different.
Great. I guess you can use this to see if you have like an n+1 problem or that sort of thing.
Queries that are going on. If you look over here, this is a query that is going on against the movie table. It's called zmovie because that's how core data or Swift data is handling it. But you can see all the different queries taking place. If I go ahead and launch my simulator and try to add a new movie, let's call it a different movie, Superman. So
it's going to do an insert.
Type in Superman and the year. Let's just type anything we want, 2023, and we will save the movie. The movie is saved, but what we're mostly interested in, was there an insert statement or insert SQL query that was fired to insert the movie? Because that's how you will insert the stuff into the database. And if we look over here, right over here, you can see the insert is actually getting fired. So this can be really useful when you're using Swift data to debug your application to see that what SQL queries are getting fired. And we can see the insert query, we can see the select query, we can see a lot of different queries. So this is really helpful for your development purposes. And I will add a reference to an article in the resources section, or the resources lecture, which is the last lecture for this section. And you can find and read the article about other flags that you can put to debug even more queries. Thank you so much.
All right. Interesting, but let's get to deleting stuff. Delete button, trash button.
Now let's
I
go
would
ahead and
love
talk
to do
about
this
how
with
we
a
can
swipe.
delete a movie. But before we delete a movie, I would like to focus on this list control that we're using right inside our movie list screen. It would be a good idea to create a separate view, like a movie list view, where we can pass in the movies, and the movie list view can display all the movies. We can go ahead and add a brand new group, and we can call this views. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add a new file. A SwiftUI view is fine.
Ooh, they've got screens and they've got views. I see. So screens are the ones that are dedicated in your app, even though like the add movie screen appears as a seed. So I'm not sure about this, but I get the idea. Like screens can have many views, but views usually don't have like other views.
It's fine. And we'll call it movie list view.
Ah.
The job of the movie list view is to display all.
And we did call this group screen, so that's fine. We can do it. We just didn't call these screens. Whoops. Can I rename this without breaking stuff? Is this the point? Like do some version control? So we can backtrack if we mess this up horribly. So let's call this screen and see if that gets refactored. It doesn't. Ah, but we didn't actually use this here. We do want this. So that's all fine. And we also want to call this screen. This doesn't get refactored. And this doesn't get refactored. But when we manually refactor it, we're fine, and we can go on into creating this.
All the movies. So we'll have created the movie list view.
So let's do it. Games list view. Maybe this is the one that will have swipe gestures. And I can only imagine that they'll want us to copy all of this.
I'll also import Swift data. Next, instead of the text, we'll be displaying the movies. This means that in order for this to work, someone needs to pass in a list of movies or an array of movies.
Sure.
This means that the preview also needs to be updated to accommodate passing the movies. Now, since we're using Swift data, it will be a little bit hard for us to pass in the movies. Even if we try to pass in the movies as an empty, that will work, but obviously it's not going to display anything. If you're going to try to construct a movie by passing in the title and the year, it's not really going to work because these movies are not simple movie struct or classes, but these are actually part of the entities and must be constructed using the Swift data, using the model container.
So I'm wondering if there is like
so for now, I'm just going to pass in an empty array.
A nice like mock creating functionality. Like if you can say Swift data create like a few mock data, a lot of mock data for this model.
And set up the model container for the movie type.
Because that'd be super sweet.
Next, right in the body, I'm going to use the list control to display. But instead of passing arguments to the list, I'm going to use a for each. And the reason we're going to use for each is that we also want to delete the movie. And for each does allow us the onDelete modifier that we can use to delete the movie.
Oh, interesting.
Let's go ahead and display the movie, the title of the.
So instead of list and pass the games, they do this And then they do for each. Games on this level. Interesting. But that has like extra brackets, I suppose. Not quite indented. And that should work, it's just that we have no data, I suppose.
Title of the movie is fine. If you want to display some other parts for the movie, let's say that if you want to display the year,
There you go.
then you can also display the year
Stack.
part. I can display a representation in simple string, so movie.year.description, which is going to
I'm happy we learned the interpolation thing, but we got there. Sign of a good teacher, though, that they do build up on things that are
display
useful.
all of that information.
Even though they do say in the beginning that you need to know Swift. Like, we don't know Swift, like we failed the prerequisite, but we know how to work with other languages, so maybe that's enough.
In string format.
And the spacer.
So this is our basic
We're looking
movie
for
list
this.
view. We can go back to our movie list screen,
This makes
and
me
instead of
happy.
using the list over there, we can say movie list view and pass in the movies.
All right, let's see it working here, I suppose. Games, it's games. Still works.
Great. Let's go and build the app.
And let's quickly check
The
on
output of the result
okay.
will exactly be the same. Let's go ahead, go back to the movie list view, and work on deleting the movie. The main reason that we added for each over here is that so we can implement the onDelete modifier. We can perform an action, and we're going to call the delete movie function.
On delete. So I'm hoping that this will work with swipes and stuff, but maybe like you'll need to press the select button that will appear magically on the toolbar. Not sure.
The delete movie function is our own custom function, which is going to take in the
All right, so back to games list. On the for each, we can apply a non-delete. Then a perform, and we can do it inline, but I guess they want us to do it out of line. And they do private func. Which takes index set. And it does some stuff. And this performs delete game.
in the index set. Once we have this particular function, which takes in the index set, because the onDelete, when you have to pass in a function over here, it must be a function that takes one argument, and that argument must be of type index set, and that is why the signature is with the index set. We can go over the index set.for each. We'll get the index. Now that's the actual index.
Ah, so it's many indices because you can multi-select and multi-delete, I assume. So that's cool. The way to do loops here is still throwing me for a loop.
Using the index and using the array of movies that you have passed, we can get the selected movie. The
Makes sense.
movie which you want to delete.
Games should
Now, in order to
delete.
delete the movie, we will take help from the model context, which we can
No,
access
we need the
using the
context. Well, good. We need the context. It's just that I thought I had guessed the next step, but I hadn't. I still don't know how to copy the whole line. So this doesn't actually copy anything. I need to select the whole line like an animal. I suppose yes.
the environment variable. from the environment, we can access model context. This will be in the context. And now we can say context.delete the movie. If I want to delete it on forcefully, meaning if I want to completely instantly delete it.
Interesting. Right. So context delete the whole game object. And then
So
surely
by calling the delete will also implicitly delete the movie. But whenever we're performing any kind of operations like deleting and saving and updating, I want to be explicit about it. So that is why I'm explicitly calling the save function, which is going to save, persist everything in our model context.
Shouldn't I do it after we've done all the stuff?
You can see a list of all the movies, and since we have implemented the onDelete modifier, now I can go ahead and swipe and delete the movie.
Oh, it is right.
All of these movies
Great.
that I'm deleting will be deleted from persistent storage, which in our case will be SQLite. Great. Let's go ahead and add another movie.
All right, so let's copy the do thing from here, but do it after the for each, and I think it will work the same. We don't want to dismiss in the end, just want to move on with our lives. And if we are on this view, my calculators are correct, we can swipe. Gone. So it does work. Great.
I'm just going to go ahead and add a movie called The Ring. And the year, let's just say the year is 2000.
I remember watching this movie and not being able to sleep because my room did have a TV.
Just to make sure that it is deleted successfully, let's go ahead and run the application again. And if we don't see The Ring, as we don't, this means that the movie has been deleted successfully from our database. Great. So now we have deleted the movie also. The next step that we want to do is updating an existing movie. So let's go to the next lecture and find out how we can update an existing movie.
Sweet. Hello, my dog.
Now let's.
All right. So we're getting to the end. We need the update now.
Go ahead and work on updating an existing movie. Now, in order to update an existing movie, we do want the user to go to a movie detail screen where there will be some existing text boxes and they will get populated with the selected movie, and then they can update the movie. So
in a SvelteKit app or Next.js app, we would be using the create view in the edit view. It just that would be passing in some initial variables, the ones we have. So let's see if we'll do the same thing.
Just going to go ahead and add a brand new screen. This will be a SwiftUI view. We'll call it movie detail screen. Great. The movie detail screen will be responsible for updating an existing movie. Eventually, it will also be responsible for displaying reviews and much more. So let's go ahead and get started with this. The first thing I'm going to do in the movie detail screen is to import Swift data. Now, when we are going to the movie detail screen, somebody is passing in the movie, hence the movie detail. So let's go ahead and say somebody is passing the movie. Now the question becomes, well, what should we pass over?
I imagine if they'll do a big refactor in the end.
Here, in the preview. In the preview, you can't really simply create a new movie. As I mentioned earlier on, that these movies have to be coming from the actual persistent storage, like the model context. So we can't just construct it like this and pass it. If you try to do that, you'll see that it doesn't really work. So one way of persisting an actual movie and then passing it would be to create the movie detail container screen. Now, if I try to do this, which is much more natural, and pass in Spider-Man and pass in whatever the year, sometimes you'll see that it just doesn't like it. You can see over here that we can't really just pass these things. It says the movie does not conform to the persistent model protocol. So even though we're calling it movie over here, we can't just pass it like this. So the next option would be to create a container view where we can pass in the particular movie. So in order to make a container view, I'm just going to say movie detail container screen. This is simply a view, nothing more, nothing less. It will also have the body property. And the whole idea is that the container view, which is the movie detail container screen, is going to be responsible for creating a movie, and then that movie can be passed to the movie detail screen. So hence the word container view or the container screen. Right over here in the body, currently we're not really going to do anything. We're just going to say container screen. In the previews, we're not really going to use the movie detail screen. We are going to use the movie detail container screen. And in that, we're also going to inject the model container for the type, which you can already guess. It's only one type we have right now, which is movie. Now, we're using the movie detail container screen over here. What we really want to do, let's go ahead and first build the application. What we really want to do is when this particular view is loaded, we will create a particular movie, add it to the context, and then pass it to the movie detail screen. In order to create the movie, we need the context, which we can get from the environment. We will also need to create a movie just for the sake of the preview. So everything that we're doing over here is just for the sake of the preview. So we will have a movie. The other thing that we want to do is...
They also call it detail. So imagine you tap and then you see the details. So maybe it is different than just having the form.
When this view appears, then we are going to go ahead and construct a movie and add it to our model context, which is basically context.insert.
So they're doing this on mount in web dev terms.
Now, once this is inserted, the movie is automatically going to be created. We also want to make sure that the movie is not optional, so I'm just going to go ahead and forcefully unwrap it. Instead of the text view, I'm just going to go ahead and use a Z-stack, and inside the Z-stack I can check if the movie is available, then go ahead and display the movie detail screen by passing in the movie. And using this technique, it will allow us to create a movie and pass it to the movie detail screen. Now, in the movie detail screen, we're supposed to be displaying the information related to the movie. First thing, I'm going to go ahead and get access to the context because eventually I do want to update the movie.
All right, let's try to duplicate the add game view. Copy, paste, doesn't work. New file. Game detail screen. Did I not change the name of this? List still works. Still fine. Yeah. So game detail screen. Let's copy everything from here. We won't be dismissing. We'll be saying game detail screen. We won't be doing that stuff. Do we won't have a form? Not sure what we'll have. Maybe we'll have the game title here. What do they have here? So they say that they have the environment context and they have the movie. So maybe instead of state, we just have let game is game. And then let's say that we just have the text being the game title. Ooh, form has a navigation title and toolbar and all of that stuff. Interestingly enough. So hopefully these are correct. So this, no need for this. Maybe no need for navigation stack. So the other thing they're doing here is have the game detail container. It's called container. Or screen container. It gets the same thing from the environment, but then the game is state. It's private var, not let. Interesting. And maybe it's not defined. And then this is a Z stack. And in here, if we have a game, I suppose, then we do render the game title screen with that game, indeed. And on appear, we are saying that the game is say Mass Effect 2. Let's say Legendary Edition, why not? What's that command? (2021) was right. And the open critic ID is 11/290. And then what do? We insert it in the context. And this just works without the queryson, I guess. Don't know why. And then if we render this in the preview, we should be in our new screen.
So now we have the movie. We want to show the details of the movie too. There are many different ways of showing the details. Sometimes you can create a title and
doesn't quite work. On appear. Oh no, let game just came. All right, so we do need the exclamation mark here for some reason to unwrap it. Cool.
a year like a separate variables, and you can populate it when the form actually loads. So right over here, we can create a form.
Oh,
and
they
whenever
do
it
want
actually
the
loads,
form.
then we can display it. So let me go ahead and copy some code over here. There we go. So now you can see over here we can actually use format as a number. And when the form is actually loaded, it is at that point that we can go ahead.
I'll be waiting to see if they extract the form into its own view to reuse in the create form and the edit form.
And populate some stuff in it. The problem right now we're facing is that somebody's going to be passing in the movies over here. Now, if you're passing in the movies, the title and also the year needs to be populated. If it's not populated, then obviously we're not going to be able to do anything. So right now I'm just going to say onAppear. And inside the onAppear, what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate these properties. Like title will be movie.title and year will be movie.year. Now you might be thinking that why can't I just directly use movie.title and movie.year over here? You can definitely try it. I usually try to move it into separate variables so I can perform some validation also. And then I populate it, repopulate it again. Okay. Now already you can see that the movie, the spider name,
You can
and the year is
certainly
displayed.
try.
The year is displayed in a kind of like a weird way. It's basically displayed as a number. So we should probably somehow display it in a different way. We will get back to that a little bit later. So in the movie detail screen, the next thing that we want to do is we want to allow the user to, well, perform an update. So let's go ahead and add a button to update the movie. There we go. When we're performing an update, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we unwrap the year so that nobody can enter, and leave it blank. We will say movie.title equals to title, movie.year equals to year. And then all we need to do is to save it, which again, I'm going to go ahead and call the context.save to save the particular movie. Great. So this is going to allow us to update an existing movie. But still the question is, well, how do we even reach the movie detail screen? We're in the movie list view where we can display all the movies. So how can we go from movie list view to a movie detail screen? The answer lies in the navigation link. Inside the for each, we're going to go ahead and add a navigation link. The navigation link, as you can see, comes in many different flavors. We're going to use the one with a value and a label. The value in this case will be the hashable value, which is the movie, and the label is something that will be displayed on the screen, which in our case will be the stack, which the user will see.
All right, so in this screen, we want to, in this view, we want to wrap the horizontal stack in navigation links. Use the game. And it just works. Maybe it just doesn't.
The next thing that we want to do is when you click on this particular navigation link or the stack, it is going to try to perform the navigation. And this is where we will use the navigation destination. The navigation destination is going to allow us to tell us that where do we want to send the user. The type will be movie.self.
All right, so on the list.
we will get access to the movie, and then we will send the user to the movie detail screen passing in the movie.
Game, that's game detail screen, that's in game.
Now, there are a couple of things we need to note over here. That when you are clicking on a particular movie, this particular navigation destination is going to get fired. And the reason it's going to get fired is because the value and the far both are matching. If the value we were passing here was integer and the navigation destination,
you need the game in again.
was set for movie, then this navigation destination will never get fired because the types were not matching. With that in place, let's go ahead and run our application. We're trying to see that if we can update a particular movie.
All right, so interestingly enough, that doesn't work. So we have the list for its I'm guessing the value is the game, and then a horizontal stack. Oh, this one's fine. It's just that we don't have any items here, so that's fine. But if we're on the list screen, which does use that, we see the arrow here, suspicious arrow. We do get there, and we have the nice navigation thing, which maybe works with swiping too. Can I swipe? Do I need to click that button? Guess so. But hey, that's neat. Getting somewhere. View transitions, baby. Easier than with SvelteKit? I don't know. Not anymore. Well, easier to make it work on an iPhone, that's for sure.
When I go to Batman, good thing is that you can see that whenever we select a movie, it gets populated. I can go ahead and change the movie and type stripes 2, and maybe even change the year. Let's say we can change it to 2023 and update. You can see that it's stripes 2 and 2023. Great. So it looks like all of this is working fine. A couple of different UI stuff that we can do. We don't really want the whole cell to be highlighted whenever we're clicking, so we'll just say borderless. Great. We still need to find a way to fix the year problem, so we'll come back to that later. We will see how we can format it in a way that it doesn't show the comma. But at least our basic structure is definitely working correctly. So let's go ahead and move forward in the course.
What was that in the end?
Now let's go ahead and go ahead and change the movie. You can still need to find a way to fix the year problem, so we'll come back to that later. We will see how we can format it in a way that it doesn't show the comma. But at least our basic structure is definitely working correctly. So let's go ahead and move forward in the course.
All right, so what else do we want to do?
Now first, let's go ahead and talk about...
Oh. So each game can have reviews,
lecture,
or each
game
can have like a Metacritic score or something. We'll see. Or like a tier. Maybe that's the thing to add. But maybe that's not something we'll be hitting today. What do we want to do? I want to try to have a common form, I guess. This. Game form. Let's see if we can take inspiration from this to create the form. So let's say that we want a new item, game form. It's a SwiftUI view, and I want to call it game form view. And let's paste everything from here. Maybe we'll need to do the trick that we did for the game detail, I guess. So game form view, but it's gonna have just the one game, I suppose. Or what exactly is it gonna have? So the AddGameScreen, I want it to have this. I want it to render this. And I suppose I want this state. And maybe like I don't have like an environment context or anything. It's not gonna have a delete game. But maybe we need to do the same trick here that we had on the detail, where we have a container. So let's try to copy that. And this thing will eventually be rendering this. But actually, it's going to be rendering this with, yes, title, this game title. Maybe it shouldn't be private, right? Can I declare them like this? Here, property can only be applied to var. So yeah, these need to be vars, I guess. Is that any better? We just need to bind them. If not, maybe that's something that we'll be finding out later in the series. Okay, if the game starts like this,
too many relationships. So let's go ahead and create.
on appear, they're doing the on appear thing. All right, cool. So still private variables. And this does actually just get a game. And on appear, curly's title is game title, and what? And year is game year, and open critic ID is game open critic ID. And I suppose this goes, where does this go? On the form, actually. So let's try to render this and see what happens. All right. And we can mess with that. That's nice. And yeah, that's all well and good. Can we make this optional? Like this? Can we say guard game? Else something else? Cardlet game. Let's return. All right, looks reasonable. And in the AddGameScreen, instead of doing this, can we render game from view? Game is game. Game recognizes game. Ah, game is nothing. Game is nil. Right, let's find another game to add. What other game did I like? No spoilers. What like that I've forgotten all games in a word. "2015 seems unlikely. More recent game, come on. And we can update by adding more things here. 2016. And it was 1538, the Open Group ID. Oof, and why is this not appearing now? Do I need to bind this? Ah, right, so this detail screen has all this state, I guess. And then this needs to get the game passed in and all of that. So yeah, I won't do this now. It feels like we're close to doing it, but I'm just not gonna do it. But this gets us into the game detail screen. I was thinking can have the game form view, which can have an update in the end. Let's see if we can do that. Oh. Game form view here. This is good and editable. And then what they were doing, they had like an edit button in the end. Button that says update. Then it has like a type card. Yeah, it doesn't look as good since we don't have it, I guess, as part of the form. Yeah, this should be part of the form. So let's not do that just yet. Let's just re-add them here, and we'll see if we refactor along with the course. Let's repeat ourselves for now. Repeating ourselves isn't that bad. But it does mean that we'll need to do all of this stuff again. And at least we can copy and paste the onAppear stuff from here. Save a bit of time. Don't need the card because that's always defined in our case. How does this look without button style? It looks the same. Okay, am I crazy? Maybe it's when you press it. So we're doing exactly the same thing. And I guess that's it. So if we're here and we add a game and we say start at 4, and we say that it's like 2016 or whatever, we can see it here, and we can go to the edit view and actually say that it's started 4. Thieves end, and it's 2016 indeed, but 1538. Update, and then we crash. Whoops. So what did we do wrong? So the update operation didn't work. So let's look at the detail screen. I guess we failed here. But what was the problem? What else do they have
We
here?
create our relationship using Swift data through the movie property in the review. This means that if you have so the relationship between the movie and create a model in our
So that's indeed where we ended. So that should be the way to go. The update button. What is it saving? Ah, it's creating like a new game like this, which is not good. So it doesn't do context insert, it just does context save. Interesting. I think my stream, my emulator is kind of flipping out. Oh, of course, it's doing like game year equals year. Title equals title. Make some change operations and then we persist them. And then we save the context. Try context save. It works. All right, it seems like it works. Maybe it doesn't. I think at the moment I start like tapping with the keyboard, it doesn't quite work. I actually press enter. I think that persists. Maybe not. Maybe not actually. We managed to persist the asif change, so something must be going right. Bound, text fields, update, on appear, we're doing this stuff without binding them. In the container screen, it doesn't matter because we're not rendering the container screen. We get past the game from the games list screen. Right? Games list view even. So GameDetailScreen, game. Do we need to pass $1 here? Is that something we forgot?
Now let's go ahead and work on updating an existing movie to tell us that where do we want to send the user. The type will be movie yourself. We will get access to the movie, and then we will send the user to the movie detail screen passing in the movie. Now, there are a couple of things we need to note over here.
Not $.
That when you are clicking on a particular movie, this particular navigation destination is going to get fired. And the reason it's going to get fired is because the value and the far both are matching. If the value we were passing here was integer and the navigation destination was set for movie, then this navigation destination will never get fired because the types were not matching. With that in place, let's go ahead and run our application. We're trying to see that if we can update a particular movie. We'll go to Batman. Good thing is that we can see that whenever we select a movie, it gets populated. I can go ahead and change the movie and type Stripes 2, and maybe even change the year. Let's say we can change it to 2023 and update. You can see that it's Stripes 2 and 2023. Great. So it looks like all of this is working fine. A couple of different UI stuff that we can do. We don't really want the whole cell to be highlighted whenever we're clicking, so we'll just say borderless. Great. We still need to find a way to fix the year problem, so we'll come back to that later. We will see how we can format it in a way that it doesn't show the comma. But at least our basic structure is definitely working correctly. So let's go ahead and move forward in the course.
Extra view we had. Not this one. Lord, not this one, this form view. Just to make sure. So this one. It does work. All right. I don't know why, but it was working all along. So cool. I think this is going to be it for today. Do let me know in the comments if this was any fun at all. It was definitely fun for me. I think I will finish by seeing how this looks in the Vision Pro, because that's going to make the stream probably crash. So let's see it. Fingers crossed. Oh, different database for the Vision Pro. Different UI. Does look cool. was kind of working and then I left. The screen disappears, but I don't know why. Not debugging. Interesting. So the detail screen is fine. It doesn't crash when I do this. And type here. AddGameScreen similarly is working. Hello world. Yeah, but the games list screen, press that game thing, and the moment I try to focus here, this crashes. Interesting. I'll also press the build button. The keyboard crashes. Interesting. All right. Works. And crashes. So I don't know if it's a simulator problem, but at least it's not crashing my stream, it looks like. Was it an internet connection issue? Who knows? But yeah, hopefully. So try to update multiple times per frame. Interesting. So yeah, that's definitely something to debug online, offline, and come back to it. Kind of cool to see, but you can see how different the looks are with the Vision Pro. But still, like they feel native. Must not be the same if we were to try to render this as a Mac app. Which is a cool thing about using SwiftUI. It looks native to the platform. Like by default, it looks inobtrusive. It looks okay. So that's why I'm interested in doing more. Cool. So I think we'll call it a stream for today. Thanks a bunch for sticking with me, and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. We can come back to try to make this SwiftUI app look more like this. We can try to do the cool learning helper where we do the cue cards, or we can do something new. We can go back to the actual live the Nextfy app, which you can actually purchase now. So watch out for that. This is real money. If you put in your real details, you're going to get charged for real. So only do that if you really want to. But that's going to be a stream for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of the week. And most of all, seize the moment. Have a lovely, lovely Valentine's Day. I'll see you around.